Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session. And today, this is my pleasure to welcome Coach Daniel here. Hi Daniel, how are you today?
I'm really good, really good. So nice to be back here. And most people don't know this, but we were supposed to start half an hour ago, but I didn't realize I had to drop my kid off at summer camp. So we postponed. So just, thanks for your flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime. And I believe also the people who are waiting for this Q&A, they will be happy to wait for your answers, and because they're always so great, and you're always allowed to have you here. So before the Q&A, I have prepared two questions that I believe that they might be really, really helpful for the community, because they're not so common, because they are kind of like for people who are more advanced in their insomnia journey. So let's look into them. And first question is, how can I let go of the thought that I caused my own insomnia? So when you read this, Danielle, what is your first thought?
Yeah. So uh, when I read this, and actually you showed it to me like 2 minutes ago, so I actually had a little time to ponder it. But I think actually there's sort of two components of this to me. So if you read the sentence, how can I let go of the thought that I caused my own insomnia? This sounds to me as if the person asking this question knows that they didn't cause their insomnia, as in like they didn't construct that or make that happen, or willfully make themselves. And so they kind of know that, but and they also know that this is just a thought. So the question then becomes, okay, how do I leave this thought? Because this thought is not helpful to me. It's the thought that probably produces some kind of maybe anxiety, and also some resentment, some guilt, and self, and it is some kind of self criticism here. So that's kind of how I look at it. But if we look at the two components, um, firstly, we have the idea that we can have that I caused this, I did this to myself, and that idea can come from actually very helpful understanding. When we understand that, no, it wasn't the fact that I had a health scare, or that I became a parent, or that I took this medication, or that I came up out of this medication. That wasn't that. None of that like caused the damage to my brain that made me have insomnia. No, it was how I reacted to that. It was the fear of not sleeping and all the things I did to escape that fear. That really creates my insomnia struggle. When we understand that,
Yeah.
sometimes what can happen is we go, oh my goodness, I did this to myself. I caused this. I created this for myself. Why did I do that? This is so silly. This is so dumb. This is et cetera, et cetera. And that notion that like we did this to ourselves, it can create its own struggle for us. So to address that, I would say that, remember, you know, our brain is just like, it's a machine designed for survival, which we say all the time. That's why kind of we're both smiling, but it's true. And and it just kind of automatically wants us to survive. So something happens to us, we stay up late one night for some reason, we're stressed, and then our brain goes like, oh no, this shouldn't have happened, and then it goes into kind of fight or flight mode, survival mode. And all of this was just benefit, like it was just because like we have a brain that loves us and wants us to survive and wants to help us. It was just it just got, there was just a little misunderstanding there. There was just a little misclassification there. That's all that happened. You didn't like, you have not done anything to yourself out of spite or ill will, so the thought that I caused my insomnia, if we can see that we didn't do anything bad to ourselves, that is really, really helpful, and see that this just happened. This just kind of like was the manifestation of a brain that wants to keep us safe. So that's number one. And that can lead to like going from kind of self-criticism to like self-kindness. Really, really helpful. And then the other part, how can I let go of the thought? If we isolate that, very, very common idea, or a very common question. And the thing is that like thoughts, they truly are like a kind of a message, like a piece of communication from the brain to us, if you will. And with communication, the more we try to block a communication going our way, the more the entity or person or whatever is wanting to communicate with us, the more they're going to try. So essentially, it becomes a matter of saying like, okay, I'm just going to allow this thought to be, and then the message is delivered. Then there's no need for like our brain to like repeat this thought over and over again. So in summary, I would say like, when we are not blaming ourselves for something that transpired and we don't try to control our thoughts, then things get easier for us.
Absolutely, I only can second that. And before starting this broadcast, I wrote down a few points, and you basically said them all. And yeah, it was just self kindness. It happens. This happens subconsciously. You have no direct control over our survival brain. Our brain just wants us to survive, and it was like one of the important things for me to learn that our brain is not here to make us happy. It wants us to survive, right? So, and we always do our best based on our knowledge at any given point, right? So, I think we have covered this question. And the other one that might be interesting is, if I don't do something, I believe it will linger. So, what do you think?
Yeah. This is another common question, and I often hear this question as in like, "Hey, Daniel, like, I know that the more I try to battle with my anxiety, the worse things get for me. But like the idea of not doing anything is so scary to me because if I don't do anything, then
Mhm.
I have no chance of like, then I feel like I have no chance of making things get better for me if I do nothing. Then what if things go completely out of control, right? Or something like that. It's kind of the same
Mhm.
type of fear that we see in this question. And I think it just helps to contextualize this again in the kind of like in the light of the survival brain that are if we are being charged, if a bulldog is charging at us, like rah, like running towards us, then our brain is going to be like, oh, this is dangerous. We got to do something. We got to run away. And in that situation, if we don't do anything, if we're just like, okay, I'm just going to stand here, that may actually be really dangerous for us, right? And so when it comes to the kind of perceived threats like not being awake and anxiety, etc., it's the same mechanism playing out. Our brain thinks that we are under attack, so we better do something. And the idea then also becomes that if I don't do anything, wow, then that could be really bad for me. So I think just understanding this fear that if I don't do anything, then this will just linger. Meaning, like if I don't do anything, this will never go away. It's
Yeah.
very understandable when we kind of understand how the brain works. And then from then on, when we see like, aha, now I understand why I'm afraid to not do anything, why I'm afraid to let go, then I think again, that becomes easier.
Yeah.
So again, I think just understanding kind of what happens inside us is the key here. But
Mhm.
yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is one thing that came to my mind as you were speaking, like when you were talking about the bulldog. My other thing was about a bear, because now in Slovakia there are there is a problem with we have too many bears around, and they get into the cities, and so people have to be careful. So you have these warning signs, like what to do if you see a bear. And one of them is, if you see a bear and you see the bear has seen you and is approaching to you, the best thing to do is not to run away, is you lay down on the ground. So, in other words, do nothing. And when the bear sees you propose no threat, it will leave you alone. And this could be like a little analogy to insomnia. Like uh, sometimes if our a problem-solving brain, of course, feel the rush of adrenaline, a lot of hyperarousal, of course, when you see a bear. It wants us to either fight or flight, but of course, you're not going to fight with a bear or run away from it, because it's going to get you. You have no chance to win. So when we just use our logical brain and we just lay down on the ground and wait until the bear goes away, this is we uh, how we get out of this really scary situation. So yeah, this that's what
That's a
came.
really nice analogy, and one reason I think it's so nice is that when we say, if you feel anxious, you can just sit with it and
Yeah.
let it be, so to speak. That sounds actually quite easy. It sounds like, yeah, that should be pretty easy, but in reality, like it is as easy as laying down when there's a bear near you. It feels as easy. So the analogy that you use here, it explains, it kind of normalizes everything, and it also normalizes that doing nothing is not easy. It's literally like thinking that you see a bear, I'm just going to lay down. How easy is that? That's not
Right.
easy at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think we have covered
Yeah.
this this question, and we have quite a few questions or comments coming in the meantime. And the first one we have is from Happy Chahar. Hi, Happy. How to do nothing and think nothing when your mind is again and again alerting you of some irrelevant thing. I'm not able to desensitize myself, and how to just be with our thoughts and emotions. So I think the other part of the question we have just covered, how to be with our thoughts and emotions. It's about knowing that they are difficult, they are not pleasant, but learning to be allowing this discomfort and know that it will leave as soon as it delivers the message is how we learn or how we desensitize ourselves. But about how about the first part of the questions, how to do nothing? What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, that is like, to me, is one of the trickiest questions, maybe the trickiest questions out of every question you get to answer. And here's the reason. When somebody asks you, how do I do nothing?
Do
Then,
nothing, right?
like if somebody says, how do I
Just
do nothing? Tell
yeah.
me how to do nothing. Anything I say can sound like it is something.
Mhm.
When someone says, how do I do nothing? And I say, well, you can just kind of observe, sit with it, then it can sound like I'm saying, oh, I'm supposed to do this. It's a do. Oh, I can observe. Let me observe. Okay, how do I observe? Do I observe the correct way? Like anytime so it's very tricky to answer, but essentially you can think of it as like the absence of action is doing nothing. But you see, it's so hard to how do I do nothing? It's almost impossible to answer. But I will use a little analogy, or I'll expand on this a little bit to say I'll say this, that the prerequisite for doing nothing is that we are doing something.
Mhm.
And another way to say this is like the prerequisite for befriending is that we have been antagonizing something, right? Or the prerequisite for like sitting with something is that we have been running, or something like that.
Mhm.
So what are we talking about here? Well, we are in the context of like inner struggles here. And so Happy Shahar wants to know, how do I do nothing? Well, the question sort of becomes, okay, now what are you doing now? Well, it probably is in some shape or form, Happy Shahar is trying to escape anxiety, trying to escape thoughts, trying to escape feelings, emotions, etc. And what can really help, I think, is to see this with clarity. And so for Happy Shahar, that could be like really, really trying to pinpoint, what do I do right now when I have a thought I don't like, or an emotion I don't like? What do I do? What do I do at that point? Do I, go to Veronika's live and ask a question? Do I, read a book? What do I do? And then see, aha, this is the something. And when we see the something, then the step of kind of leaving the something becomes a little bit easier. So I think it's pinpointing, what are we doing now to escape whatever we want to escape? And when we see what we're doing now, then the step towards like leaving that and then doing nothing becomes a little bit more tangible. So I'll pause there. I had one more comment to this one, but I'll pause there and get back to you if that makes sense, Veronika.
Mhm. Absolutely. And when you're doing saying like doing nothing, and when you have these thoughts, there are like many techniques, like how to work with our thoughts, how to allow our thoughts, and so on. Write down our thoughts and challenge our thoughts. But sometimes it's all about leaving our thoughts, just letting there to be, because uh, just like once or one of your teachings is about we cannot persuade our brain. It's like fighting with someone about another political who has another political view. You know you can't win over him, but you just let him argue and argue, and sometimes your answer is yeah, okay, whatever. So in this sense, I would say we do nothing. We don't fight the thoughts. We don't fight the emotions. We just let them be. with us until the message is delivered, the signal is heard, and they will leave naturally on our own without us doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I was as you were speaking, I thought of this like super nice analogy that our colleague and friend Alina uses. And I'll do it super quickly.
Mhm.
But imagine that you're in the grocery store shopping
Yeah.
and you remember, oh no, I think I left the oven on at home. And at that point in time, you're like, maybe I'll just continue grocery shopping, but your brain's just like, the oven is on, your house is gonna burn down, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. These thoughts are just coming right and left. What can you do at a moment to stop them? Very little, because it's that your brain's going to warn you, but you decide to just go home, and you drive home and you check the oven, and it was not on. Actually, it was not
Mhm.
on. It was not on at all. You feel a wave of relief, and then what happens to those thoughts? They're no longer there. What did you do to stop them? What did you do to do nothing? Nothing. Like they just naturally evaporated when our brain saw that there was nothing to be afraid of. So that's another way that
Mhm.
like not necessarily answering the question of what is to do nothing, but it's kind of the understanding that when our brain sees no threat, it automatically doesn't send those uncomfortable thoughts and emotions that wants us to do something. I know that was long-winded, maybe it's complicated, but I wanted to share that and add one more little thing, which was like Happy Shahar said, like, now my mind is kind of like warning me about all these like little irrelevant things. And that is also very common among our kind of our community and among our students, that people notice that now I'm not only afraid of, like, not sleeping or the anxiety, but it's like the littlest thing, like I think I don't have any milk in my house, can be like, oh no, there's no milk. Or like you see like a bird and you're like, oh, what if I get the bird flu? Like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of silly things. But I think that just illustrates again that when our brain is in this kind of survival mode, it can pick up on any little thing and kind of make it a threat. And when we think that's not good, that's abnormal, this shouldn't be happening, then we have another threat because we could think our brain is doing something wrong, right? But when we see like, no, this kind of like uh, tokenization, I call it, like the brain making all kinds of things appear like
Mhm.
threats, totally normal in that stage. And that also, like, just normalizing that can lead us to a place where we don't struggle with that, and things get easier for us. So just a little addition there.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing and answering, Daniel. Another question that we have is from Just Ray. How can I get over the sleeplessness speed bumps in my insomnia recovery? Currently in the middle of my month-long insomnia recovery and sleep okay, then have a night of wakefulness. Will these end? I think I can start with this one because it's I'm very familiar with these situations, with this experience, and I could go like really long stretches of sleeping well, and then just one night of sleeplessness, kind of, I felt like ruined my progress. I felt like uh, this one night completely cleared, deleted everything that I have kind of like achieved, but. The truth is that these nights of sleeplessness, they are very common. I like to explain it in a way like your brain is asking, are you sure you are not afraid of this anymore? Because you used to be so excited about this. It has brought you so many strong emotions. So, how about now? And now your task is to answer, yeah, I'm sure. It's completely fine. And in this way, your brain will learn over and over again that this is safe, and these these sleepless nights, they will eventually fade away. But one of the very helpful teachings that I had from you, Danielle, was to attribute to the obvious. And this is when we have sleepless nights, it feels like um, or I'm just I need to just get my thoughts together. Um, we When we go down the rabbit hole of thinking, "Oh my God, what is wrong with me? This shouldn't be happening. This is not good." Then yeah, we might spiral down in the consecutive nights of not sleeping, which is very common for me. But when I learned to attribute to something obvious, for example, I had a stressful day. My kid wasn't sleeping well, or I had COVID, like it was in the time when COVID was around, or what I named were external reasons, and now there could be this one internal reason, like, oh my goodness, like what I mentioned at the beginning. Um, my brain is just asking, is this safe? Is this okay? And the reason why we have the sleepless nights eventually doesn't really matter. What matters is our reaction. And through our reaction, we teach our brain this is safe, this is okay. And believe me, they will fade away. So, anything to add, Daniel?
No, I'll just for who was the name of the person who
Just
after?
Ray.
Um, just right. So yeah. Firstly, actually, just a practical thing that we have on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist called the Speed Bump playlist. So I think if you haven't checked that out, definitely check it out. There's a lot that's really helpful there. And then just kind of like summarizing what Veronica said in just like slightly different words is that we look at insomnia happening that when we have become afraid of not sleeping. And even though things have gotten easier for us through education, there may be still a little fear there. And the brain may ask the question, are you still afraid of not sleeping? And that can be a little bit scary, and we can have like a night of sleeping less. But that in itself can be really helpful to understand, because then again, you have attributed the sleepless night to something obvious, which is just a little bit of a lingering fear. Sometimes there's an obvious external reason. And when we say like, of course I didn't sleep because of XYZ, that's helpful. But there's always an obvious reason. Either it's an obvious external reason, like you said, like I had COVID, or kind of an obvious internal reason, which was I was a little scared. That question came from my brain. So I just want to, kind of summarize in that way. But that's all. Next question.
Okay, perfect. There's a question for you, Daniel, from Ian. Hi, Ian. Daniel, I love all of your words and believe your methods of teaching. I'm just curious. Can you share your worst case hyperarousal scenario you have seen that was healed? I hope my question comes from curable anxiety, but I had a health reaction that has not gone away for 4 months, and I have educated and accepted all of your work. So, got it?
Yes. Okay. So firstly, Ian, I would say so glad you're here. So glad you're here, that you're learning, and that you're part of our community. Sorry, of course, you had this health reaction. But again, I'm glad you're here. And I want to say that maybe start from the end of this, which where Ian says, like, I have welcomed and accepted, but it's still happening to me. To me, this brings me to firstly being really encouraged and glad whenever somebody says, like, I understand that acceptance is the way that this gets easier for me. That understanding is, I think, very, very helpful, because we know that the more we fight and try to escape and are active and do things, the more tricky things get for us. So seeing that acceptance is helpful is really, really nice. I want to start there. Now, sometimes we can have what I'm again thinking of Alina, our coaching colleague and friend, Coach Alina. She thinks of it as like she coined something she calls conditional acceptance. And this is basically when we understand that accepting is what will lead to things getting easier for me. And then our idea, kind of conscious or semi-conscious or subconscious idea, becomes, I have to accept so that my anxiety goes away, so that my hyperarousal goes away, right? And now it is not really kind of the acceptance of the hyperarousal and the anxiety that will lead it to fade. Now it's actually again turning into some type of sophisticated way of attempting to escape it. So understanding conditional acceptance can really, really explain why we kind of, on a surface level, we may have accepted or we have told ourselves that we have accepted, but in reality, it was more like the conditional acceptance. That can be so helpful to see, because then again, there's no mystery. Then we're not in the space of like, I accepted and it didn't get easier for me. There must be something wrong with me. No. It's just like acceptance can become also a way of like attempting to escape. And when we see this, things are so much clearer, and that's so helpful to us. Now, the other part of this, the first part was like, what's kind of the worst case hyperarousal you've seen becoming healed? You know, I will share something just for illustrational purposes, but I'll say that the what you read between the lines is that there's someone here who has, you know, the experience or the belief that something incredibly unusual is happening to them. They're in this place of like almost like hopeless hyperarousal, and they're just looking for a little bit of hope. Like somebody saying, I want to hear about somebody who was, I like, you know, as bad as me, or in such a difficult space as me, and that things get easier for them. I need to hear that so I feel more hopeful. And you know, what I want to share there is that having done this for many, many years and talked to so many people who've gone through this journey, every single person at some point, if it was a long stretch or a shorter stretch, it doesn't matter. Every single person I've ever interacted with has at some point felt like their case was the worst case in the universe, and it was like really, really unusual. And just knowing that can be so helpful, because when you hear these, like our success stories here, you may see people smiling and laughing and things of that nature. You think like, that person could not have had what I went through, but they did. So I would say, you know, regardless of what our experience was for us, we can leave that, no question whatsoever. You know, there's no doubt. But I'll, you know, to name some things that can come to mind as I was sharing this, was that I remember like when we very, very early on started this YouTube channel, I just remember someone who said that they had really struggled with sleep, and they had randomly been on a flight, and for the first time in like years, they fell asleep on the airplane and they slept for a few hours, right? And then you know what that person did? Like, they lived in Washington, D.C. They booked a flight to Dubai just to sleep. And I
Wow.
was like, when I talked to that person, I was like, wait a minute, did you do that? Yeah, I was just so I could get some sleep. I booked a flight to Dubai.
Wow.
And of course I didn't sleep at all, right? Because then it was like some effort there. But hyperarousal can lead to like us doing all these things that can illustrate how much we suffer. So I just wanted to kind of share that one. But that's all.
Yeah, amazing, Daniel. Thank you so much for sharing. And I wanted to share something, but it's slipped my mind. Like this conditional acceptance is like masked resistance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. And okay, so let's answer the last question for today. And we have a question from Bright Force S. How do you treat old age triggered insomnia due to the old age related melatonin reduction and changes in the deep sleep cycle? So, as a sleep doctor, as a sleep coach, so what are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I think this actually becomes fairly straightforward to answer, meaning to me, this becomes a question of sleep disruption and insomnia being like two
Mhm.
separated things. How we sleep, it does change when we age. And I think, you know, I'm 45 now. And, you know, I remember when I was like, you know, from like 18 to like, I don't know, early 30s, maybe, it was very common for me to just go to bed, lights out, wake up like, you know, 7 hours later and just start my day. It was very normal. But now I like that happens maybe like once every 6. I'm surprised when I'm like, whoa, I don't remember waking up. Oh, interesting. It's now my sleep is fragmented. I usually wake up like at least like 3-4 times that I remember, right?
Mhm.
And I think there is some of that continues, so that when we are older, we tend to have a bit more fragmented sleep. This is
Mhm.
true. And now, is that because our melatonin production secretion homeostasis changes with age? I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so. I don't necessarily think there's like kind of like this like straight causal link between this one factor and this other
Mhm.
factor. So I would question that, and I think it can help to question that, because when we think like, oh, it's all about the melatonin, I got to fix my melatonin, then we're in this kind of like effortful space of trying to manipulate our sleep and control our sleep, et cetera, which can be tricky. So again, when we take out we take out, let's say, melatonin from the question, and we just have the question as kind of like, what do we do when we have insomnia that is related to our age somehow. It's again separating sleep disruption from insomnia and seeing that there are many, many people that are elderly that have somewhat fragmented sleep, maybe more superficial sleep, but
Mhm.
don't struggle with that at all and just have a wonderful life experience, right? And see that insomnia is when we are scared of those disruptions and we're scared of not sleeping, and that creates a lot of struggle for us. And then when the fear is gone, yeah, we can maybe have still some choppiness in our sleep, but it's no struggle for us. So I think that to me is the answer here.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I would just add that we also have people in the immunity program who are at a higher age. And I remember one of our coaches told me, like, he had a call with 87 years old person. And this is, for me, it's at one side, it's amazing. Like, at this high age, you are still keen to learn, still keen to discover new approaches. And I think this person, um, it was Richard who told me about this person. He said, like, this person suffer from 15 years from insomnia. And it's amazing that even at this age, you want to change your mindset, change your attitude, and find again this peaceful and effortless sleep. So, there is no specific time for a change. There is, at any age, you can really come to a big turnover. So, yeah, I if just in case, right, first you are at this wonderful part of your life, and you are still wondering like whether there is a time for change. Absolutely, it's any time, and you are really welcome to spend some time on the channel, or if you would like to really deepen your knowledge, you're welcome to join our Insomnia Immunity program. So right now, I would like to wrap up our Q&A for today. I thank you very much, Daniel, for joining me, and we'll be really happy to see you again. And
Super
thank you very
nice.
much for posting your questions.
Thanks for
Bye
having me.
bye. See you next time.